So I'm here on Front Street, right in downtown Salem. That's Front Street behind me. It's called Front Street because this used to be the old waterfront. Everything that way has been filled in over the years. So I'm standing in what would have been the harbor at one point. Now, Salem gets involved in trading with foreign ports pretty early on. We send ships down to the Caribbean. We get sugar from the Caribbean. We bring the sugar back up here to distill it into rum. There are a lot of distilleries in New England. You bring the rum over to Africa. You see where this is going. You trade the rum for slaves. You get the slaves. You bring them down to the Caribbean, trade them for more sugar, bring them back up here. The triangle trade. Now, sadly, we do have a part to play in the triangle trade of slavery. Salem generally prefers to focus on its history of abolition, and there is quite an abolitionist history here in Salem. It's something I really have to get up to speed on myself. But of course, you wouldn't have an abolitionist history if you didn't have a history of slave trading to begin with. So, Front Street used to be the old waterfront, and as Salem becomes a more and more wealthy port, it would have been lined with wharves and warehouses all behind me. And it would have smelled amazing because we get heavily involved in the spice trade. There are dozens and dozens of ships sailing out of Salem Harbor, bound for India, bound for China, bound for Japan, bringing back all kinds of spices. So coffee, tea, cinnamon, cardamom. I don't really even know what cardamom is. It would have smelled amazing up and down Front Street. The story goes you could actually smell those ships as they were coming back into harbor when the wind caught them right. It would bring the scent of cinnamon or coffee right into downtown Salem before the ship had even docked. So we do very well in the spice trade. There are actually ports on the other end of it. People in Japan and India who think that Salem must be another country. There are so many ships coming in from Salem. They think it's another country, not just a little seaport town on the northeast coast. The city motto to this very day is, "To the furthest ports of the rich East," trying to call back to that long history we have of voyaging far and wide. Now, we get very wealthy as a seaport, a very large fleet, a lot of highly trained sailors, and then the Revolutionary War breaks out. And Salem changes gears. The fight for independence has begun, so we get involved in privateering. Now, privateering is this kind of legalized piracy. Congress can issue a letter of marque and reprisal. This entitles you to attack the vessels of enemy nations. This is in the Constitution. Theoretically, Congress could still do this today. Don't tell Trump. He's never read the Constitution, so it's fine. But this entitles you to go attack the vessels of enemy nations and to keep whatever you capture. Now, you see the old pirate movies, you're firing broadsides at the enemy ship, you're trying to sink the enemy ship. You are never trying to do that. You're trying to capture the enemy ship. That way you get a new ship, you get all the stuff that's on board, and you can maybe ransom the guys back to the other side. So there's a lot of money to be made in privateering, and we're really good at it. One of the early prizes that we capture, when you capture an enemy ship, they call that taking a prize. So one of the prizes that we capture is off the coast of Ireland. It's a ship that is moving a library of scientific books. Those books are brought back here to Salem, and they become the kind of the nucleus, the core collection for the Salem Athenaeum, a private lending library, which is still active today, and they still have the books. Now, one of the really successful privateers is a guy named Elias Haskett Derby. Elias Haskett Derby is very much the man who builds Salem in many ways. Down one street, that is New Derby Street. You walk down New Derby Street to Derby Street, walk down Derby Street to Derby Wharf. Derby is a very successful privateer. After the revolution is over, independence is won, we shift gears once again. We go back into trading with foreign ports. And Derby, who had made money in the spice trade, also in privateering, goes back into the spice trade. So we're very successful with that. Now, one area of commerce that Elias Haskett Derby will not deal in is he will not deal in the slave trade. This is a major area of commerce. The slave trade builds the flippin' country, but we're really uncomfortable talking about that. And this is an area that he will not get involved in. Won't do it. I first heard about that, thought, that's amazing. What a guy. But really, the more I thought about it, refusing to buy and sell people is kind of the bare minimum. Where Derby does make his money, what makes Derby one of the richest men in American history, probably the first American millionaire, according to most sources, is pepper. Now, pepper in the 1790s, this is a rare and fabulous spice. Pepper comes from halfway around the world, in Sumatra over by Vietnam, and it is unheard of in the 1790s. It is a rare and fabulous spice everyone wants to try. You can buy pepper in Sumatra, and you can sell it back here in the New World at a 700% markup. And we're talking about pepper. You buy it for $2 at Stop and Shop. You buy it for $8 at Whole Foods. It's pepper. You buy it there. You sell it here at a 700% markup. And this is what makes Derby's fortune. It makes him one of the wealthiest men in American history to this day. It makes him so wealthy, in fact, that he's able to build a fantastic mansion right by me. That's not it. Made you look. It's a beautiful mansion designed by Samuel McIntyre, Salem's foremost architect. Unfortunately, Derby is only able to live in the mansion for 1 year. He moves in, he dies of a heart attack in 1799 at the age of 60, and the house stands empty. It is so gorgeous, it is so palatial and expensive that nobody in town can afford to buy it and keep it up. Eventually, the family gives the land and the house to the town. The town tears the mansion down, which makes me crazy. They build town hall on that site. So that behind me, that is the site of town government for a long time. The town council would meet up top, and down below that would be a market where farmers would sell their goods. They do that until the 1830s, when Salem goes from being a town to being a city. We build City Hall around the corner, and Old Town Hall there gets used for a number of civic purposes, kind of meetings, public meetings, that sort of thing, since then. Now, 2 quick trivia points about Elias Haskett Derby. One is, he has this thing called heterochromia iridum. Anybody know what this is? No one ever does, don't worry. This is 2 different colored eyes. He has a brown eye and a blue eye. There's a famous portrait of him. If you kind of squint, you'll notice he's got these odd mismatched eyes, a brown eye and a blue eye. Apparently that is still in the Derby family today, from what I understand. The only person who ever knew what heterochromia iridum was a woman who came on the tour a couple of years ago. She knew because she had it herself. The other thing about Derby is that his biggest, fastest ship was called the Grand Turk. The Grand Turk made dozens of voyages around the world, bringing back spices, also very successful as a privateer. You have seen the Grand Turk, whether you realize it or not. Because for some reason, the Grand Turk ends up being the logo of Old Spice aftershave for a while. If you look at old bottles of Old Spice, there's a little square rigger on the bottle. That's the Grand Turk. I'm not sure why. Maybe Old Spice, the spice trade, is the only connection I can really think of. But for some reason, Derby's Grand Turk ends up being the logo of Old Spice aftershave.